Here we are for our final review. It's been a couple months and we've really been enjoying a lot of different cooking methods and just honing our skill when it comes to dry heat, moist heat, and knife skills. That's been our focus for the past few weeks. And let's not forget gut health and cooking with alternative ingredients that are really good for the body, right? So we're gonna have a review today. We're gonna go over a few items just to make sure that the past few months here in our review, you're up to speed. All right, so let's start with health and sanitation. Everybody's favorite. When in doubt, throw it out is always the key reminder that I have for everybody. And then making sure we're constantly washing our hands and in the kitchen, watching everything around you and being conscientious of cross-contamination. Mindful of where we source our foods, right? Understanding, did you get it from the grocery store? Did you get it from a farm? Have you checked the dates? Do you really understand where your food's from and how fresh it is? Storage. We talked a lot about storage and making sure that we store that raw chicken, right? In a pan and on the bottom shelf. And then don't forget about things like chemical reactions from bananas and apples. And you put an apple next to a bunch of avocados and it's really gonna help those avocados ripen up really fast. It either works for you or against you in dry storage. Knife skills, we're going to review a little bit of knife skills. Moist heat, dry heat, our baking. And then we went into a great conversation with Dr. Bernauer on that, gut-brain connection and how important it is to really watch what you're eating and to bring in some things like fermented food. And that brought us right into fermentation with Lily, one of our youngest farmers in Southern California. What a blessing she is for all of us. And then fermentation brings us right into our final review. So let's get started. We're going to take a bird, a chicken, and we're going to roast it. Now out of that roasting, we're gonna take those bones, we're gonna roast those bones at a really high heat, we're gonna put them in a pot, and we're gonna make stock. We're gonna start then we're gonna go into moist heat, right? Boiling, then we're gonna take it down to a simmer. And then from there, we're going to take some yams, and I'm gonna show you two different ways to cut those. So there's some more knife skills, and then we're gonna roast them right back to dry heat, and then we're gonna plate all that up together. Now, there's one more thing we're going to review, fermentation. The great thing about fermentation is you could ferment something in your kitchen like a creme fraiche. You can make that yourself. I'm gonna show you a recipe. And then you can take the creaminess of that buttermilk and the yogurt and everything that's in the creme fraiche, and you can marinate your chicken in that. That is understanding a lot of what I've taught you in dry and moist heat with your different fats, from your oils to your ghee, to your lards, to your butters, and how those different fats react with your proteins, your protein strands. We've talked a little bit about that. And now we're going to be able to take something as simple as a chicken and do a review for basically the entire class. So we're just going to get started. Again, making sure we mise en place, we have everything that we need, right around us. I'm going to give my knife. I'm going to hone this blade, right? So again, keeping this nice grip. Not having your hand up here, we all know that, but we fall back into some bad habits. So let's make sure our hand's here, nice and safe. Same thing with our honing blade, keeping our hands underneath this bit right here, all right? And then you got about a quarter angle, and you bring your knife down, bring it back the other way, same thing. See how it's almost laying down, all right? And you want to do that about 10 sides, 10 times. I think if I could just get away with talking backwards, I would talk backwards. All right? Just like that. You want to do that every time because it hones the blade, it keeps the blade from getting wonky. If you have any small divots or chips, it's definitely going to help keep the blade nice and even. I mean, if you have a chip actually in your blade, you're screwed and you need to take it in, you need to get it sharpened. All right, So I have two of my knives that I want to use. I'm going to use this one for getting into that breastbone area on the top of the bird. And then when I want to get through some of my bones, I'm going to use my chef knife, my 10-inch chef knife. It's steel forged. It's got a really nice heavy handle. It's going to give me that power, that weight to get through. You're not going to want to use a fillet knife to get through your bird, to get through those bones. And you can also use scissors, which I thought I had here. Anyway, we'll find the scissors. You can also use cooking shears to get through that backbone. Found them. All right, so this is what I want to do. I'm going to turn my board over because I want these divots here in the board to catch any juice from the chicken, okay? So let's grab our bird. Okay, and I'm going to put it breast side down on the board. Now, there's tons of ways to roast a bird. Turkey, chicken, duck. You know, you can roast it whole like this, or you can cut out this spine, which helps the roasting process along. It doesn't take as long because really it's about 70 minutes to cook a bird. And you have to think about all the different meats that are in here. We have all this dark meat. You got these guys that cook super fast. Then you have the white meat, your breasts, that are going to cook differently. All of this will cook differently. So I want to teach you a couple different things around roasting a chicken. If you were to take a ghee, right, that's when you take your butter and we heat it up and you take the fat solubles out, right, and you're left with that beautiful high heat oil. You take that high heat oil and you just brush it all over the bird and you're going to get that really beautiful crispy skin. Now, when we're roasting this, I'm going to use cast iron frying pan. You can also you can use most anything. I also do not like having my bird, the skin of the bird, touching the pan when I'm roasting something for 70 minutes because it's not going to have any circulation of air around it because of that straight contact, right? So we're going to put some mirepoix. You guys all know what mirepoix is. We've done that in the class. We're going to use a little knife skill to remind you of some of the different cuts and the techniques. By the way, we're shooting this all together because it serves as a review. So there's going to be some time for you while I'm talking to actually take your bird out. And if you want to work alongside me, you can. All right, so we know that all the different meats within this entire body of this bird cooks differently. We know that we can put some ghee on top to get that crispy skin. We can also open up some of the skin, and I'm going to show you, and stuff butter underneath to really to get that, to keep the moisture in. And another thing that is really important to do once we're ready to roast this is we're going to sprinkle salt all over, just like we've done with our steaks, right? Then we're going to take a paper towel and we're going to push that in. And again, that helps with the moisture because the salt and the barrier helps those protein strands and helps all of that stay where the moisture stay where it is inside the meat, right, inside the bird for the roast. Okay, so without further ado, we're going to go ahead and we're going to take this baby apart. You got to remember that when this is face up like this, breast up, these guys are going to cook super fast. So my advice is either clip them and you put them right into the stock pot, or you cover these with foil because these are going to cook lightning fast and they're not going to be enjoyable. So if this is something you enjoy, you want to cover them with foil right off the bat, or like I said, you clip them off and put them right in your stock pot. So starting with the breast down, and I'd like you to wash your hands in between each stage with the bird touching your tools. All right, so I'm going to take my chef knife, and this right here is the spine of the bird. So I'm going to go ahead and outline it for myself so I know where to cut. So we're going to start here because one, you can see it and you can also feel it, right? And I'm going to give myself indentation all the way down to the booty of the bird. I'm going to do it again on the other side. This way I know where I'm cutting and I'm not shooting blind. You can also feel, it's not always incredibly easy. You can also feel, because every bird's different, where the different bone structure is and what you're going to get through and what you're not going to get through. Like I said, you could take your shears, if you have kitchen shears, you can bring them in and you can start the cut. And I want to make sure we're not working too fast and we're seeing this. Right up to the neck, you take your shears and you just come in. You see how easy that is? This starts the process for you. You can go all the way down. Sometimes you're going to get caught up with some of these, with some of the rib bones. And and that's okay. You just make it work. You got to pull this as you go. And if you get caught up, that's when you bring in your knives, right? Shears are pretty hardy though. They should work all the way through. And then go to this side, turn this baby around. And just cut where your marks are, basically your seams. And if you have any trouble, you can take your knife in, hand over, bring it down. You hear that crack? Same thing on this side. Bring it up, bring it down. That should come out fairly easy. You got all your little bits and pieces. And then I'm going to do a little trimming in here. All right, so we have our bird, we have this neck. I'm going to go ahead and just put it on my pan for roasting. And I'm going to trim this up a little bit in here. We've got all this excess fat, and it's good to leave some of it on. I don't leave all of it on because it's just not my personal preference, okay? So if you open this up, awesome. I'm going to give another little cut right here on the breastplate. Then I'm going to turn it over and I'm going to give it a crack. And that just helps flatten it out and make the roasting process go faster. So instead of 70 minutes, this baby should cook at about 45. So you see what we've done? And then it's even taken the wings and tucked the wings in. But again, I suggest that if you like to eat these, you just cover them in foil, like if they're your favorite part. So this is how our bird's going to look when we roast it. We're going to roast it in this 12-inch cast iron pan. All right, get some salt on here. You see that I'm being super generous, right? Super generous. Get it in there. Get her in there. Lift your wing up. Be proud. It's a good thing that I crack myself up because nobody else laughs at my jokes. Oh, I got a little laughter. All right, so you see what I just did there? I'm gonna have to clean everything. And I'm gonna turn this over and I'm gonna do the same thing. All right. Okay. So listen, we're gonna go ahead and get this neck right into the oven because I want to start a stock with it. Awesome. Got our veggies here and we're going to go ahead and roast in this cast iron. So we're going to do a little knife skill review right now. Let's get our board cleaned up. There are different knives. I'm going to go ahead and use my 10-inch chef knife for this. And I'm just going to take our tops and the bottom pieces off, right? So again, with that bear claw, keeping your fingers back so you have this connection with your blade, right? Having that nice good grip. We're going to start here at the top and just come down, right? You see how I automatically do that? It is automatic for me. Even when I'm using multiple pieces, you can see I just go right into, I just bring my hands right into that position. All right, so these bits and pieces are going to go right into our stock pot. You can see I already have some parsley ends in there because when I bought the parsley, I cut those stems and I put those stems into a little bit of water. Remember that? Because that's going to keep your herbs super, super fresh. All right. So going over some of our cuts, the first one I'm going to do is the roll cut because so many people had a problem with that. Now for what I'm doing, these are beautiful organic carrots. I really scrubbed them. I'm not going to peel them. Obviously you have the choice to peel them. I just want you to remember how to use your peeler so you don't skin your finger. Just keeping that firm grip. Same with your knife, same with the peeler. So on the roll cut, so if you remember, our knife's above, and we're going to have it at an angle. Make sure we're seeing this. Right? You see that angle right there? So then we're going to roll it towards us, right? And we're going to do the same thing. You really never have to move the position of your knife. I mean, you're moving your knife this way, but you don't have to go back and forth. It's a great thing about a roll cut, and you just keep rolling it towards you. See that? Fun. And I know a lot of you tried this, and it gives you a different texture. So let's go ahead and finish this. And keep rolling it towards me, keep rolling it towards me. And you see how I'm keeping my hands to the side. All right, so these roll cuts, I'm just going to go ahead and throw in our pan here to put our chicken on. Now let's talk about safety with our larger vegetables, right? Even if you had a yam here right now, or your squash, or anything, your cucumber, we want you to cut these in half, right? Knife goes up above, come across, and then we have that flat surface to work off of. And for your julienne, right, we want that 2-inch piece. So then you have your flat surface, and then you take your knife right over the top, bring it down, and then that's when we get our sticks, our julienne sticks, or your matchsticks. And then we also talked about cutting planks, right? So another way to do this, let's take our carrot in half. Now we're going to start here at the end, bring our hand over, and we're just going to trim this outside edge off, right? So it's flat. You have that flat surface. I'm going to do it again on the other side. I'm going to bring this carrot back, bring my knife down, and I'm going to trim these edges off so I can make planks. It's another piece that's going to go by the wayside, and then you want about 1/8 of an inch for your planks. There's one, there's two, right? So then you have these beautiful planks, and you can go ahead and you can julienne. You can do your small julienne, you can do a medium, you can do a large. You see where my hands are, and I bring my knife in to match that, right? So there's our sticks. And then at the same time, we can use these to do our small dice. Remember, keeping that hand back, right? Bringing your knife aboard. There's our small dice. Really important that we're always practicing these. And then if we want a larger dice, we've got our plank ready to go, right? I'm going to take these edges off, so super pretty, keeping everything uniform. Then we're just going to cut this one in half. And then here is that kind of small to medium dice. All right, there you go. Now, if you want a larger dice, we know that you're looking at about 1/2 inch. Look at that. And there's a large dice. Now medium dice, part of what we went over in knife skills is medium dice is going to be, for a recipe, if it just says dice. They never call out medium or small or large, so you just know that that's a medium dice. So all of this that we just practiced with is going to go into our stock pot. And we're going to get this chicken in the bloody oven because it's going to take about 45 minutes. So let's go ahead and chop this celery up. I'm just going to double them up. Watching my hands, and I'm just going to do a rough chop. I'm going to take this, put it in this pan here. Going to go ahead and put a little bit of lemon for flavor. You want to remember that citrus can really dull your blade, so be conscientious of wiping it off right when you're done, just to make sure we're pulling that acid off the blade, but it will dull your blade the fastest. All right, so we're going to get some onion in here too. Go ahead and take that paper off. And I'm going to put this paper right into my stock pot. I'm going to go ahead and turn it on. And I want it to boil first. Get that pan position right over the flame. And then as soon as, let's check on those bits and pieces. Oh yeah, perfect. So this is the spine of the chicken, right? Now, I purposefully left that fat on here so you could see how much oil comes off. I don't like an oily bird. I like a moist bird, which is why I cut some of that extra fat off of the chicken. So what we're going to do is move our knife. I teach you about safety. And we're going to take this baby that's roasted, we're going to put it in our stock. It's going to add some nice flavor. And go back to what we were doing so we can get some onion in this pan, all right? Just real quick. Keeping our knife safety, right? Throw this in the stock pot. Oh, come on in, Franny Bobani. This is Franny, everybody. Say hi.
Hi.
Thank you, sweetheart. She's got butter for us. Really exciting. Because I want to get some butter on this bird. All right. So you can kind of see what's going on here, right? This is not a hot pan. I've got everything layered here. And this is where our bird is going to go. And we're going to get a little, ooh, runaway carrot. Let's just take these guys and put them over here. There we go. Clean board. Reset ourselves. Butter. So we're gonna, this is the thing about butter in chicken. It's just so delicious. It's so yummy. So we're gonna stuff a little bit of butter under the skin. I'm gonna show you how to do that. And remember, don't forget, you can also take ghee and you can brush the skin. Let's cut ourselves some pieces here. Easier to work with. Get those cuts. About half a cube. Keep that fileta. Don't want to just get rid of butter. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to pull a little bit of the skin up right here. Just going to get a little hole in there. And we're going to take this butter, fold it in half, and we're going to stuff it in there. Now, what's really cool is you could take this butter and you can mix it up with some herbs. You can mix it up with some garlic. You can mix it up with some spices. And this would be a great time to just give spice merchants down in Old Town Temecula a little shout out right now, because that's where I get all my spices as a chef, and also they're just, Sue and her staff are just such incredible people, and they gave us a ton of spices to use during these classes, so we could really highlight some different ingredients, right? So do you see how we're getting that all under that breastplate there, under the skin for the breast? And then these guys over here, I usually start right here on the back because you have that natural open skin, because that's where we cut the spine out, and you're going to push that butter. You see how I'm pushing it all the way over, right to the front of that leg? It's so easy, you guys. Flip this baby over. You're going to find that little pocket, and if there's not one, then create one. Use your finger. If you have to use a little bit of a knife, use a knife. But you see, can you see that right there? It's just that open pocket. Put the butter in, and then you're going to slide it around. all the way up to the top of the leg. And the reason I'm doing this is because if you leave it back here where the pocket is, it's just going to run out. We want it to stay in. Look at that. Okay, one more piece up here. I lied. 2 more. There we go. Push that all in. There we go. Okay. Now, we're going to take this baby. I'm going to put some oil in the bottom of the pan. So avocado oil is fantastic. Temecula olive oil has a great hickory smoke if you want to add a little bit of a different flavor. I really love the chili citrus as well. This is Ikobuchi. Frank's going to kill me. Frank and Debbie, and I can never remember their last name, but Iacobuchi. Great oils. So again, with your flavored oils, you can change the profile of your dish. It's going to get a little bit of oil in the bottom of this pan. I'm going to take our bird, put it right in this pan. You can see what's going on. Now, you can also just string these guys together. If you did not cut the spine out, I would say that I'd want you to tie these together. And then again, right, you would foil or clip the wings. We're not going to do that because we have this bird flattened out. It's going to roast faster. I'm going to tuck the legs in though under a little bit of this fat, if you see what I'm doing. Just keep those ends moist. These guys I'm not going to worry about, to be honest, because they're going to end up in stock, and I want them to get nice and crisp for me, because I like the flavor that that roasted caramelized flavor that they then lend my stock. All right, so we're gonna get this in the oven. Now listen, you want the legs, you want them in the corner of the oven. Your oven has different heat patches. Where it's going to be the hottest is the back right or back left of your oven. So you're going to take your pan, you're going to make sure the legs are facing the back, the breasts are facing the front middle of the oven, and we're going to put this in the far right corner of the oven, and in about 20 minutes I'm going to take it and I'm going to put it in the other side of the oven. One, it's going to speed it along, but also that heat in the cast iron pan, it's going to generate more heat. You got that heat conductor. Okay? All right, here we go. Come on over here, Kobe. Look at that. We're gonna tuck this right in the back. Okay? All right. 400 degrees. That's where I'm gonna start this baby at. And I forgot the ginger, but that's okay. I'm gonna go over peeling ginger with you, and then I'm gonna put some ginger in the stock, because right now with the cold weather, you really need to boost your immune system. And ginger and fresh turmeric, bone broth, all of that is going to help your immunity, and it's also really great for your gut. Okay, so getting into some of our winter root vegetables to go with our roasted chicken. It's really important to eat seasonally. I strive to eat within the seasons, and that means food that is growing at that time, right? And then even local, knowing that I can get sweet potatoes and yams from some of my local farmers. Parsnips, I love parsnips. And while we're doing this, let's just note, because you can do a couple different things at once when you're in the kitchen. You kind of have to, right, for time and saving on labor. You'll see that the stock is fully boiling. That's part of our moist heat cooking lesson, was boiling. So we're going to take it down to a simmer. And remember, you might have to toggle the heat back and forth a little till you get to that simmer, and just give it a minute to cool down enough from boil to simmer. And there you go. You can kind of see it happening, right? You can see the difference between those bubbles. And then we're going to want to let that stock simmer. I let mine go for 8 hours. You could go as little as 2 hours, right? But you really want to pull all of that nutritional value out of the vegetables and your bones. You're going to want to let it simmer for about 8 hours. And sometimes you may have to add a little water, okay? Okay, getting right into our root vegetables, peeling our ginger. So we have parsnips and we have purple sweet potatoes. Really important to think about eating seasonal, eating local. And what I mean by eating seasonal are things that are growing within the season. What's growing right now in winter? Your body, because of all of the temperatures from outside to how your body acclimates to colder weather, is really going to respond differently to foods that are grown within the season, which is why we have so many root vegetables. Our body needs these warming foods, right? And then things like ginger and turmeric, fresh, are fantastic. So if you remember how we peel our ginger, you just take the side of a spoon, trim up your ginger, and you're just going to peel that skin right off. It's a little messy, kind of gets all over the place, but really fantastic way to get this ginger done without cutting yourself. Or if you use a peeler, the difference is going to be that you're just going to pull a lot of the meat off, and you want to keep as much of that as possible. So just get a really firm grip, grab your spoon, and start whacking away at this ginger. There we go. Okay, done, just like that. Now I am going to take all this fresh ginger, and I'm just going to throw it into my stock. I don't want it at the same time to be overwhelming, so that's all I'm going to put in there. Okay, that's how you do that. And then we can take our microplane, and halfway through the roasting process with the chicken, when we go to turn that pan, we can just shave some and put it right in the pan, or you can even put some bigger chunks in the pan directly. Okay, so root vegetables. Parsnips, already peeled, they tend to be way more fibrous. They're not as easy to cut. So you want to remember your knife skills, remember safety around that. I'm just going to take these into, I recommend larger coins on these because they tend to dry out a bit when you cut into them. Matter of fact, when you're choosing a parsnip, I don't know if you guys can see the difference. So I just want you to see the difference. It's not the color, but it's all these little pocky holes right here. This is see that? Can you see it? This is dry. This one's not. You see that there's none in this one. This is nice and smooth, and there's none of those holes. This is super dry. It's going to roast completely different, and you can even see it's just not as firm. So really, I don't want to roast this one, so I'm going to put this one to the side. I'm also not going to put this in my stock. Parsnips are really sweet. Understanding the flavor profile, right, of parsnips, they're sweet. You put them in your stock is going to be sweeter. If that's what you want, go for it. But I want you to be mindful of the flavor profiles of your food, so when you're putting things in your stock pot, you know what you're going to get. Okay, like if you wanted to do a curry, this would be fantastic because those flavor profiles would lend to a curry and making a vegetarian base for it. Okay, so I just want some bigger pieces of these. I'm just going to go ahead and do a roll cut. I'm going to start at the top, keeping my fingers back, roll this baby towards me. Notice how my knife is in changing positions, but you see that I'm using my body weight to come down on this, right? Rolling it forward, rolling it forward. Here we go again, rolling it forward. All right, there we go. Got these really nice roll cuts. These are all going to cook differently, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cut this guy down. Going to go over the top, bring that size of this roll cut down. That way, this isn't raw, and this one's cooked all the way through. Okay, now these guys, there's a couple different ways. Look at how beautiful they are, by the way. These purple sweet potatoes. So Franny, do you want to come over here and grab these and scrub these up for me, babe? We're going to do two things. We're going to take the whole yam, and we're just going to roast it whole. Thank you. And then we're going to leave the skin on, and we're just going to cut some bigger chunks. And think about all the spices, right? Think about your flavor profile and what you want to do. I know we have onions and celery and lemon, and we're going to add some ginger to that chicken, that roasted chicken. So I think getting in tune with fall, I'm going to use some Mexican oregano from Spice Merchants, and I'm going to use a little bit of coriander and some cinnamon. And I'm going to toss it with some fresh parsley and some avocado oil, and that's how we're going to roast these babies. All right, and I do want you, because we're always doing a couple different things while we're cooking, right? It's important, even from a labor standpoint, you sometimes have to really multitask. So we see that our stock's boiling. It's definitely been boiling long enough. And from moist heat cooking methods, we now want to go from boiling to simmer. You may have to toggle that heat a little bit, but you'll get where you need to be. Give it a few minutes to find its place, and we'll go to a simmer. Awesome. And then I'm going to put this on with just a little bit of venting. All right, so we're going to wash these yams up, and we're going to check the chicken, and we'll be right back. Okay, we're back. We've got our root vegetables up top. I'm going to check our chicken real quick, and at the same time, I did my microplane of my ginger, so I'm going to throw that into the pan. All right, I turned this guy low. That is coming along just beautifully. Awesome. You want to come on over here? I'm just going to throw this ginger down all the way around where there's some moisture. I'm just going to let it go before we lose. And you notice how the legs are pointed to the back, breasts are pointed to the front, all the way in that back corner. And I don't want to lose any more heat. Get that baby closed. Okay. Did you see the flicking of the ginger? That was hysterical. All righty. Oh, thank you, Franny. So, a couple different ways to do sweet potatoes, yams, your regular potatoes. Your yams and your sweet potatoes much more fibrous, right? A little bit more dense than your potato. And what I want you to remember when you're cutting into them, to make sure that you have a really good hold on them, right? I cut a little bit of a flat surface here, so I could cut that easily. So we have one that's wrapped. It's going to go in the oven just like this. 400 degrees for a in foil sweet potato. If it's larger, 400 and 425, you could put a little bit of butter and oil in it if you want. I just do them dry because then I cut it open, and then, you know, all that beautiful steam. And then you can top it with anything you want. You know, sour cream, creme fraiche, butter. You can make a whole meal out of it by adding beans, ground beef, you name it. This can be a whole meal. It can also be accompaniment to something as beautiful as roasted chicken. So what we're going to do is I'm going to toss these in a different bowl because of this. Watch. You see how they bleed? And you're just going to end up with gray is what you're going to get from the purple with the white. So we don't want that to happen, so these are going to go in their own bowl. All right, let's make way. And then on your sweet potato, so we have one that's whole that I've already peeled, and we're going to cut into cubes. This one, I just cut in half, faster roasting, and what you could do is you could just hatch the top of this and then go all the way through, which you don't want to do. So just hatch the top of this, about 1/8 of an inch, right? And then you can put some butter and some herbs in there, and you can roast it that way. You can also cut planks, and you can stick this in the toaster. And it takes about 2 to 3 times in the toaster, and it acts like a piece of toast, right? It's your base, and then you can put almond butter on it, hemp seeds, some superfoods, berries. You could also put avocado and some cold chicken, and you've got yourself toast, but it's not toast for those of you that can't eat any form of grain. There you go. Now let's cut into this baby. Going up and over, making sure I have that connection to my board and all the way down, all right? I've got a little bit of a flat surface here for safety. Coming up and over again. Gonna bring my hand up, push it down. Go right back to that flat surface. Gonna go in half again. It's not incredible. Using your body weight helps, makes it easier. So again, coming up and over, right? There we go. Now, we're just going to cut a large cube. That's it, guys. Look at that color. That color is just ridiculous. It's so beautiful. Let's go ahead and use all of this. Come up and over again. Right onto its belly. Cut it in half. in half. The tips will cook faster and be super dry, so you can take them off if you want. Nice big cubes. Okay, so without further ado, going to dress both of these. I'm going to put a pinch of cinnamon. Oh, it's going to be just gorgeous. You could also use ginger, a little turmeric. I'm going to use a little bit of, this is our coriander, and I love coriander. And then a little bit of Mexican oregano right on top here. And I am going to use avocado oil on top of these sweet potatoes. I'm going to put a little touch of this chili oil that Frank and Deb made. They're local, by the way. They're up in Anza. They're not in Anza, excuse me. They're up in Duluth. Okay, so we have our two different flavor profiles. The sweetness of the parsnip is going to carry the heat of that chili. It's a chili lemon oil, so it's going to be perfectly balanced with a parsnip that tends to be sweeter. All right, so you're just going to want to coat these. You don't want them to go in dry. A lot of people just put them on a pan and do a drizzle of oil. They're so fibrous, gang. They're really dry, so you want to make sure they're coated really well. Sweet potatoes, yams are fantastic in duck fat. They're fantastic in butter. You know, it's kind of the sky is the limit on the fat that you're going to use. All right, so let's get these on a pan. We're going to take our little toasted guy off. So I've got a baking pan with parchment, so my root vegetables aren't sticking to the bottom of the pan. I love using parchment because I really don't like using all those sprays. It's not good for you. All right, so we're just going to lay these out so they're not fully touching. All right, there you go. These I'm going to put in a 400-degree oven for about, these are really going to take, the parsnips are probably going to cook faster than the sweet potatoes. These guys probably going to take about 15, these are going to take about 20, but we'll time it, we'll let you know. All right, in the oven, and I think we have a guest in the kitchen. Hi!
Hello, it's good to see you.
Everybody remembered Dr. Banawa. I know. We're being safe and social distancing. Is this a wide enough shot for us?
Sounds great. Everything looks so great. What are we preparing today?
Okay, so we've been talking about, really we're doing a review from everything we've learned. And one of the things I just touched on was, remember the conversation we had with Dr. B on the gut-brain connection. So fermented foods, fermentation. So I'm going to teach them how to make creme fraiche, fermenting that buttermilk and that cream, right? Even using some yogurt and lemon.
That sounds wonderful.
And you could marinate your chicken in that. So we're doing roasted chicken with parsnips and sweet potatoes.
That sounds great.
I know, right? Are you hungry?
I might hang around until it comes out of the oven. No, I love that.
Do you need a little lunch, Dr. B?
That's why I'm up here. No, I'm just joking. Actually, we were talking to one of my patients this morning about that because she's been having some GI issues.
Okay.
So we were talking about the benefits of gut health and using probiotics. I love your idea of marinating the chicken in it. That's not something that occurred to me. We'll do a lot of turmeric in our chicken marinades, and we use yogurt a lot just to tenderize the meat, but having that added element of the creme
I'm
fraiche.
sorry to interrupt you, but who's the chef in the kitchen now? Did you hear that? So
I'm just going to take over. You can go see my patients.
We talked about that earlier.
I'm
I'm just going to show up in the doctor's office. Hey, this is all you need to do, and they're going to be like, "What? That's a chef code."
Our patients would love that. I think a lot of our focus on nutrition is food and health through food, and I think that message resonates with a lot of our patients. So I'm so excited to see that you're doing this, and I love that you keep your recipes simple and things that you can do in the home, but they have an added flair, especially with people cooking more at home nowadays and staying in. It's a really great way to not only boost health and boost immunity, but also have something fun to do in the kitchen, which is so important. So that's so great.
I think we'd have a lot of fun cooking together. I think she's going to get sucked into doing more with us. But I want to just quickly go back to, I know you're super busy, so thank you for popping up. But I just want to go back to what Dr. B said about the yogurt.
Yes.
She said that added fat with your protein. So protein strands, right, in the meat, that there's a lot of different chemical compounds that happens with your meat. So if you take that fat and you mix it with that protein, you get such a moist bird. So if you take yogurt, marinate your chicken 2 hours, I say overnight.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, it's a completely different game, right?
I always do it overnight. And so our family makes this really very simple chicken. We get just the chicken, either chicken breast or chicken tenders, whatever you prefer. If you're doing a more keto or full fat diet, do the chicken thighs because there's so much good fat in the meat. But we'll take that, we'll do some olive oil, salt, pepper, a little bit of turmeric. We'll do a little bit of, actually we do what we bloom saffron, which gives the chicken such a beautiful color. So we'll grind a little bit of saffron, mix it with maybe a tablespoon of hot water. And then we'll chop up an onion too, just to give it that extra flavor and also break down those proteins a little bit better.
I'm hungry now.
I know.
I wasn't hungry this whole time I've been cooking, and now I'm hungry.
It's so easy. You just throw it in the fridge, let it marinate overnight. We like to throw ours on the barbecue because it's super easy and the cleanup is low, but you can do it in a cast iron skillet. You can roast it in the oven. It's such an easy thing to do. And the flavor payoff is just delicious. So
I'm giggling because you just went through our whole review.
Oh,
you went through moist cooking methods. You went through dry heat. You went through different pans and pots to use. So thank you for doing the review for us.
I don't mind at all. That's what I'm here for.
I'm just going to go downstairs and see some of the patients now.
We're very multifaceted here at Sun City. We like that whole wellness approach.
Oh, I love it.
But it's so fun. I think that food is so overlooked as a route towards health, and I think that our patients would probably love to see you over me because it'll really be a bright spot in their
For about
day.
5 minutes, ask my students. Well, we have a present for you.
Oh.
Okay.
Oh my goodness, the
So,
coffee.
you know how much I love Roast House.
Yes.
I do. I'm sorry.
I'm actually about to grab this from you. I'm so excited right now. So we had been talking about.
So this is for you because
I'm so excited.
you know, just great women-owned company, and buying from women around the world their beans. And I just wanted to thank you for your time. And the students were stoked. One of them, somebody sees you also. Obviously, I can't give out their name.
I know who
but
you're
they were
talking about.
all so excited.
They came back and told me.
It was a brag session for like 5 minutes, like about you. So, and I love that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So there's a backstory here, and I have to tell everybody about this. So we were talking about intermittent fasting, and intermittent fasting for whatever, there's so many different health benefits for it. If you're doing it for autophagy specifically, which is a cell breakdown process with recycling, you really want to not be doing a lot of dairy or bulletproof coffee if you're doing that specifically. So we had been talking about finding a roast that's palatable just as a black coffee with nothing added, and we had been talking about different flavor profiles, and you actually let me know, and I didn't realize this about, you know, mold and coffee beans and how it's processed and stored. And so Chef Lee actually gave me this to try. We finished it in a few days. It's such a good coffee, and so I'm so happy that
Were you jacked? You must have been so
good.
We finished it in 2.5 hours.
Baseline, I'm a little bit up here. I think we were all the way through the roof, but I'm so excited for this. Thank you. I really
You're welcome, and I want to
appreciate
give you a hug, but I'm respecting
Yes.
our social distancing right now.
We
And
will nod gracefully to one another
yes.
in the interest of health.
But thank you for all you do, and for really being on the front lines and continuing to see patients, because I mean that's what you do. And
I mean, you know, this is our calling. We go into medicine to treat patients, and I always tell my patients, let me be the bad guy. Say that, you know, the doctor's recommending we do X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
You know, now's not the time for parties or anything like that. Stay home, be safe. Down the road, we'll get to resume what we call normal life. We're in an alternate universe right now, and that's okay.
Totally.
We just all have to do our best to stay together and come through it. So,
Amen. Amen to that. And again, but thank you so much.
Yes, absolutely.
Everybody at Rancho Family Medical has been so gracious and kind and really caring. So,
and thank you for, you know, reaching out to our patients, reaching out to our community, and doing things like this because it's so important and it's fun. Cooking is so fun and it's so enjoyable.
it is fun.
Thank you for letting me crash your kitchen. I'm going to go see patients.
Hug.
Always a pleasure. Take care.
Ciao. Thank you. That was Dr. B, ladies and gentlemen, and I just want to say thank you to her again and the entire team at Rancho Family Medical in Riverside County. They go out of their way for me, for my staff, and for all of their patients and our community at large. And I just have to give that shout out. All right, where were we? We were in roasting. I love it when people just pop by. It's the best thing ever. I think we're just going to have a show with Dr. B now. All right, so let's just do a quick catch up with our review. We've gone over our different cooking methods, right? We were in moist heat and dry heat for quite a spell, I think a few weeks. And we covered all the different techniques from boiling to simmering to poaching, right? And then when you got over to dry heat, we were in baking, we were in roasting, we were in grilling. So there's all of that within our moist and our dry heat, and how everything reacts. Everything reacts differently with different cooking methods, okay? And we've got a few of them going on right now. Matter of fact, remember how I said that you're gonna have to toggle that heat? I'm gonna go ahead and leave the top off so it cools down a bit, and I wanna bring this down to a true simmer. And I'm gonna add a little bit more water, because when you're making a stock, you really wanna keep the water above your ingredients. You don't want your ingredients poking out, all right? So we have our chicken roasting in a cast iron pan at the back of the oven. We've changed the positions that the pan was in. We went from the right side to the left side, keeping the legs towards the back and the breast towards the middle, because we know that those are our hot spots, and that's going to help the roasting of the chicken further along. It won't take as long. And then we have sweet potatoes in the oven with parsnips, and those are roasting as well. So we're going to take a quick break, and we're going to come back and just review roasting. I'm going to give you about 7 to 8 tips on roasting meats. And we're going to do some fermentation, to do a quick review from the fermenting class we had with our young farmer, Lily Murray, right? Edge of Urban Farms down in Vista. And we're going to ferment basically dairy and make a creme fraiche. All right, we'll be right back. All right, so not forgetting about our stock, we're going to go ahead and cover those bones of chicken, all that veggie up with some more water, right? We're going to toggle that heat a little bit, because we do want it to simmer. We want to see some light bubbles on the top. Now, don't forget, simmering is a form of reduction, so that's going to yield a really decadent and intense sauce. That's what reduction is, and that's what we want. Now for the stock, it's just going to reduce it enough so we just really pull all the nutritional value and all the flavor out, and it's going to be really yummy. All right, so on to fermentation. So we have some creme fraiche, fancier way of saying sour cream, that we ferment. And you can ferment it by using heavy cream, buttermilk, or heavy cream and yogurt, and you leave it out for 16 to 24 hours, and you have creme fraiche. You can see it's not as thick as, I'll show you, it's not quite as thick as sour cream, but it still has that velvety texture. It's like a really thin yogurt, and it's really delicious. It's tangy. Creme fraiche is definitely more on the tangy side than sour cream. Okay, so let's go ahead and just put that there. So this is how easy it is. You have 1 cup of heavy cream. I'm going to put it in a bowl. We're going to use, how many tablespoons, Trey? 2? 2 tablespoons of buttermilk. And although many recipes don't call for it, I use a little squeeze of lemon. Just a little bit. You can see it already starting to kind of curdle up there, and that's the fermentation process. So just going to give this a quick stir. All right, and now what we're going to do is we're going to cover this with a piece of parchment or a towel, and we're going to leave it out on our counter for 16 to 24 hours. That's creme fraiche. If you want to flavor it, you could stick a star anise, or you could crack a cardamom pod and stick it in there, and you'd get a really yummy flavor. And if you want it super thick, I put 1 tablespoon of yogurt in here, mix it up really well. You can add that to this recipe. Okay, that's it. All right, so let's get cleaned up here. We're going to check on everything that's in the oven. So Dr. B, real quick, was just talking about using yogurt, right? You could take this creme fraiche and you could take your raw chicken, take a whole cup of creme fraiche and pour it over the chicken and just kind of massage it into the meat, put it in a bag or put it in a pan covered with plastic wrap, let it sit there overnight, come in the next day from work, take that baby, put it over some veg, one pan in the oven, and then you've got, if you've got potatoes on there, onions and carrots, and the chickens next to it or on it, you have one meal. Super easy and really, really affordable. All right, let's check on everything. Come on, Kobe. Oh, look at that. Those are like perfect. Look at that beautiful caramelization. Maybe even a tiny bit overdone, but I like them that way, so right on. All right, so what we have here, right? See that beautiful caramelization? Maybe a little bit tad overdone. I like things nice and crispy with a little bit of browning. Oh, look at that. My goodness. Delicious. So I'm going to go ahead and take the parsnips off. I'm going to turn down the heat, and I'm going to leave these sweet potatoes on just a little longer. All right. Get these in a bowl. It's going to be super hot. I would put a little bit of butter on top of these right now and just let that butter kind of melt down and over these. So maybe Franny will go get me some and we can do that real quick. Always putting everybody on the spot. All right, let's turn this oven down. I want these to not be as brown. Give you some light there. There we go. All right. Just a little bit of butter. Okay. Stock is simmering. Always toggling that heat. We're going to take that chicken out and we are going to check the temperature. Now, I'm going to suggest that you bring it all the way out because you're losing your temperature of your oven when you keep it open. So people who open it, check the temp, take the thermometer out, close the oven. It's like you want to just take it out real quick, check it, and then put it back in my world. Okay, so we're going to go to, you always want to go to the thickest area. You don't want to just stick it over here where there's not a lot of meat because you want to take a true temp. So we're going to go right here and all the way in. Beautiful. We have a perfect 145 degrees and poultry goes all the way to 165. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put just a little bit of our stock in here because you can see this pan really have just a lot of browning here. So I just want to, at the bottom, and I don't want the veggies to burn. It's not my goal. And that's what's kind of starting to happen. So we're just going to get a little bit of moisture in here. Right on top of this bird too. All right. Yep, 145. So the deal is you need your bird at 165. I'm going to pull it at 155 because it'll continue to cook. We need it to go a little longer. I don't mind how crispy this is getting. I think this is beautiful and it's really only going to be about 10 more minutes. That's it. Now, if this was bothering you and you're like, oh, that's done enough for me, well, then all you have to do is take a piece of foil, right? I've been warring with the foil all day. It attacked me earlier. All right, right? Pinch your bird, going around your legs. And you can just put it back in just like this. So now I'm going to go to that other corner of the oven. Why not? All right, close it up. So we got about 10 minutes left. I guess we'll be right back. We'll plate up the chicken and the sweet potatoes and we'll just do a finishing review on the tips for roasting your meats. Okay, our chicken's almost ready. Awesome. So this review's been, I think, really mindful and thoughtful, considering everything that we've gone through over the past few months, right? And it serves as a reminder with being safe in the kitchen, from storage to understanding expiration dates, where we're getting items, how we're storing them in cold and dry storage, how we're being conscientious of cross-contaminating and not cross-contaminating in the kitchen, and remembering like our Tomcat, right? Like remembering all of our different temperature guidelines and how to cool things down and the rules around cooling foods down. All of that keeps us safe around food and keeps all those that we're cooking for, whether professionally or family, it keeps them safe. And it's so important right now to keep that gut super, super healthy and your immunity up to fight any disease or flus. Okay, so then we went into our dry and our moist heat, and we covered safety around knife skills, and we just had some fun with fermentation and Dr. B. And now we're just going to finish things up with some tips on roasting your chicken, your roasting poultry. Now, I'm also sharing this with you because it's the holiday season, right? And you're going to be doing a lot of cooking for your family, so these tips are really going to help you. So I always want to remind everyone to brine your bird, like get some fat on that bird or brine it and let it sit for 1 or 2 days before you're roasting it. And if you're going to add stuffing, please just, it cooks at it doesn't cook the same way your meat is cooking. And you have potential to really get sick or not have it, you're gonna have it undercooked. So you have a potential to get sick. I had to back that up. So please just cook your stuffing in a pan on the side. You want to remember to take the bird, dry it off. You can spatchcock it, which is what we did, and that is just like cutting that spine out, right, and laying it flat. That's what spatchcock is. And then dry it off and get that salt in there, because remember that your salt is not just flavoring, right? Your salt is basically helping those protein strands soften, and you're getting a moist bird that way. Add dairy. Dr. B brought that up, and I was just stoked that she brought that up. Because by adding that fat, you're adding a whole nother dimension, and it's breaking down the protein molecules in that bird, right? And you're going to get a moister, more flavorful bird. And you're adding, as Dr. B said, you're adding different fats. And those fats together are really great for the human body. They're just not great when you start adding a lot of different outside elements like sugar and a bunch of unnecessary carbs. All right, so rub aromatics or fat under the skin. So you saw how we did that with the top of the bird, and then we came up and under into the thighs, and we put some butter in there. And as a reminder, you can add your herbs that you like to that butter already, and you can then add it under the skin. You want to make sure it's not super soft or it'll be hard to get in there. So I usually, after I add my herbs or garlic, whatever it is you want to add to that butter, I put it in the freezer for about 10 minutes, so it's just easier and more manageable. All right, so temperature. All right, we want to temper the chicken before roasting. Tempering food is simple but a critical step that involves bringing an ingredient to room temperature prior to cooking so that it cooks more evenly. And that's part of what we were talking about, how we put the bird in the oven, where we put the bird in the oven, understanding the hot spots, right? The larger cuts of meat, the longer they take to cook. So doing this ahead of time and understanding what you're cooking, what you're roasting, is going to definitely help you out. Prepare the chicken. I killed myself. All right, so preparing your chicken, you don't want to just throw that bird in the oven, right? You want to take a minute to everything we talked about. Look at it. Those wing tips are going to cook faster. Chop them off. Cut them off, put them in your stock, or cover them in foil. The legs, you can take the legs and you can tie them up so they'll brown better, right? Because the way they lay on top of that breast, so by the time you're done roasting and you pull it up, underneath that little thigh is not going to brown the same way, but if you truss it up, it will. Tie it up. All right, and then we talked about having the chicken in the hot spots of the oven, and then place your chicken into a hot oven. I know this seems a little odd to everyone, but I've had questions back, comments back, that my chicken took hours and hours to cook because they took an ice cold bird, they put it in a pan and they put it in an oven and turned the oven on. So your oven needs to be preheated, right? 350 to 400 degrees. And your chicken really should be out of that refrigerator. Mine's out for almost 2 hours because it will cook faster and more evenly when it's not ice cold, okay? And then lastly, a great tip is when you take that chicken out of the oven, which we're gonna do right now, you want it to rest. You wanna just leave it alone for a minute. Because when you cut into it, what's gonna happen is all the juices are gonna come out and it's gonna leave a drier bird. All right, let's pull this out. Make sure this cast iron's gonna be really hot. Okay, you grab the back, we grab the front, and bring it straight up to your stovetop. My recommendation is to leave something on the edge. When you have a cast iron in the oven, leave something on the handle because someone's gonna come through your kitchen and grab it. They're gonna burn the heck out of their hand. Constantly toggling the heat for the stock. I want it to simmer, not boil. All right, look at that. Look at that beautiful bird. Here we go. Oops, that takes too long. Let's use this guy. Let's get a little stock over the top here. Kind of pull all those bits and pieces at the bottom together. Oh my goodness, the smell. Absolutely beautiful. Okay, so here is our bird. I'm gonna let it rest for easy 10 minutes before I cut into this. But that's okay because it's worth it. It's worth every second. You end up with a more tender bird. I want you to remember when you do cut this to plate it, to enjoy with your family, is I want you to not throw away any of the bits and pieces. Keep it for your stock, keep it for a soup, keep it for, a puree for a sauce, okay? All right, we're gonna let this rest and we'll be right back. All right. This bird has had plenty of time to rest. So we're gonna do, to break this down for you to enjoy, put on a platter, we're going to start with our legs, then we're gonna take our wings off and come up to our breasts. So with the legs, there's a little, and notice where my board is. I faced it up with the divots so it could catch any juice because you wanna use all that. So wanna use all that for our gravy, for a sauce. So I'm just gonna cut these right here, right? Oh, look at all that. And the thing is we let it rest for a good amount of time and you can still see all that juice escaping. So we're just gonna come up to the very top of the thigh here. There's a joint and you just wanna take your knife through it. Okay? So you saw it just like that. That's what that's gonna look like. So we're going to do it again. And sometimes if you trim it up a little bit, because if you don't know where it is, then just trim it up a little bit. You know what the leg looks like, right? You can round it off. And some people need to turn it towards them, which I suggest you do, right? Going to give it a cut and come right around to the top. Okay? All right. There's that guy. You see all that juice. We don't want to let any of that go. Stay in the board. Stay. Okay, so then we've got our thighs underneath here. I'm gonna go ahead and take my breasts off first. So there's the middle. And sometimes it's just using your finger to see where that breastplate is, right? So I'm gonna start right up here at top. And I suggest you doing the same thing too, right? Where you can just outline it. Really better using this fillet knife. And then as you lift it up, you see you got this whole breast here, right? Okay. And then just keep using your knife and working your knife until it comes off. Look at that. You got the little, this is called an airline breast, believe it or not, when you've got the little wing on the side. So we're gonna take our chef knife, we're gonna come right up to this joint and cut that baby off, okay? So I just want you to see, look at that, perfect, perfect breast. Put it right back in the pan here. You can serve this like this if you like. All right, things are getting a little messy. It's the way we like it. Going back to that bone right here, right? Just outlining that for yourself. Makes it easier. And then just as you're going, just kind of loosen it up a little bit. If it makes you nervous, then just go slow, right? You know, I know so many of you are perfectionists. You don't want to ruin what you have. I get it. Right? I'm going to give it a little trim in here to detach it. Come all the way through. And as I'm doing this, and the reason why I do it this way is it's naturally going to loosen up the thighs. So, you see this joint right here? You can cut right through that joint. If you wanted to do, look how easy. That's it. Barely any pressure. I want you to see this joint. So when you're loosening up the breast and you want a perfect cut, or if you want that not to be there, you have to find it. So you can understand that you need to cut right in between that. All right? And that's what holds this baby together. And sometimes it can be a little tricky. You got to get up to that joint and cut it smoothly. So you can see where I messed up a little bit there. And that's okay. It's all right to not be perfect in the kitchen. It's all right to make mistakes. So that baby's going to go in there. That's going to go in stock. We're going to trim this breast up a little bit. And just so you know where your tender is, your tender hides right here. So you can take that out if you want. If this is too big of a portion, you can easily just take this out. There's your tender. You can use it for the kids. You can use it for a different plate, okay? Now, this is all for stock. Love it. I want you to just see how easy this is now that we did the legs and we did the breast. Your thighs are just going to come right off. See how that guy just came right off? This guy's going to want to prove to be just a little bit more difficult, but that's okay, because I know my way around a bird. There we go. All right, so now we're going to take this and we're going to put it right, oh, I'd be remiss if I didn't show you the oysters. On the chicken right underneath here, so here's your breast. Here were your little winglets. Your thighs and your legs were down here. Now right up here in this little cavity is what we call a chicken oyster, because it's hot. It's this little round, delicious piece of meat. It's the best, and it kind of resembles an oyster. It's the best piece of meat on the bird, right? So just a little secret about where those oysters are. You can see it right in here, right? Okay, this is going to go right into our stock, and then I'm going to cover it up with more water. All these bits and pieces are going to go right into the stock. This can also go back into your pan and we can make a sauce. We're going to do a quick cleanup. We're going to plate this and then we're going to be done, just like that. What a great couple months this has been with you. I am just honored to work with everyone that has made this class possible for all of you, and really for me to be able to share some of my knowledge and experience from my 20 years of cooking. And it's just been great. I've had a wonderful time, and I hope you've learned something and that you can apply this at home with with your family, for your family, and also staying super healthy, right? Building that immunity up. So I want to thank all of our local olive oil producers, from Temecula Olive Oil to Frank and Deb's place, Ayakobuchi and Picholine and Five Wine, and a huge thanks to Spice Merchants and to Roast House Coffee for everything that you've done to help us keep the costs down so we could get this shoot done, and also supply some of our students with ingredients so they can cook at home. MSJC, thank you for the opportunity, and thank you for supplying everything that you have to make this class happen. And Rancho Family Medical Group, who produced this for us, gang. So maybe drop them a line and just say thank you. And from all of us at Extraordinary Artisan Table, Eat Marketplace, and Old Town Temecula, we just want to say stay healthy, have a fantastic holiday season, and we'll see you next year. We out.